Hello, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my first video in my new flat. Focus on me. I don't know how the lighting looks this good on camera because I live in a cave now. Like, I don't know how, I just don't know why it looks so bright on there. I mean, I'm not complaining because if my videos are going to come out with good lighting, then I'm not going to complain. But just so you know, I live in a cave. It's not this bright in here. If you can see rubbish in the background, just pretend you can't, okay? That's the situation. Is this focused on me? Is that better? Okay. Let's ignore this light, because I think that light maybe is the problem. Or anyway, let's just get into it. So we will learn as we go where the good lighting is in this flat. Also excuse the fact that I look like an egg. So this morning I had my induction for my third year and I did heatless curls last night with my dressing gown. If you know, you know. And it just didn't work. My head just looked like a big ball of fluff. And my mum has my straighteners. And yeah, that was the situation. So we had to go slick today. Slick Rick making a comeback. But yeah, we're here, we're ready for a book roundup, and I hope you enjoy. So if you haven't already, grab yourself a cuppa. You can pause this video now and go and get that. And I'll be right here. So today I'm going to go through all the books that I read in August, and then I'm going to show you my September TBR. I am on a spinny chair, so I feel like I'm just going to be like this for the whole video. This is exciting. I've also only got half my tripod. Let me show you. It hasn't got the attachment that allows me to put my camera on it, and it's also missing a leg because my mum's given me the broken one. Cheers, mother. And my ring light tripod only has the mobile attachment, so that was no good either. I don't even have the ring light on, and this is the lighting. Magic. So yeah, basically you're propped up on my shelves and I'm just talking to the wall, but we're gonna roll with it. Let's get into it. So clearance, not COVID. Choking on my brunch bar. Oh, that's an issue. See, my books are also underneath you. Let me be a bit more careful getting them out. So my August wrap up is a grand total, drum roll please, of 4 books. Now, I know that's not a lot for most people, but for me, that's quite impressive. I don't think there's been that many months where I've read 4. We're gonna run through these and then I'll move on. If you haven't already, by the way, subscribe right now. I do a 1 book video every month. Just a wrap up and a TBR, because I'm not one of those booktubers that reads like crazy amounts of books, so it doesn't really warrant 2 separate videos. But yeah, I do one of those every month. I will occasionally post like a book haul as well as that, and yeah, I post other stuff too, so hit the subscribe button. So the first book I read was Bridget Jones' Baby. If you haven't been following these videos, this is the last Bridget Jones book that I read. I thought that I read them in the wrong order, but I actually read them in order of release. But that's not chronological order in terms of what happens in the books, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So this is the 4th book that was released, but in terms of chronological order, it was the 3rd book. Does that make sense to anyone? So this was the last one, obviously, I had to read. It's a little bit shorter, it's a hardback, and it was good. I enjoyed it. It is different to the film, if you've seen the film. I love the Bridget Jones films. If you don't know that about me by now, get to know. But yeah, I love the Bridget Jones movies, so that's why I decided to read the books. And of course, I was disappointed by most of them, because you cannot, I preach this, you cannot enjoy a book as much as you enjoyed the film, or vice versa. I refuse to believe that that is possible, because you're just going to be disappointed one way or the other. Prove me wrong, if you will. But yeah, Bridget Jones' Baby, nice quick read, different to the film, but this makes more sense actually. I feel like the film just had a couple of issues that they had to work around, and this is, no, that's what they came up with, but this is really how it should have been, if that makes sense. If you know, you know. Someone said that they didn't feel like the writer matured Bridget enough, and she felt like she was still the same like 20 something that she was in like the first 2 books, and I do agree to a certain extent, but I do think that is just her character. She's very like ditzy. Obviously she has matured a bit. I mean, I think she's like 40s in this book, I don't know, maybe late 30s, but yeah, I enjoyed it anyways. I think I gave it like a 3 or a 4 stars. But yeah, that was the first book. Next up, I read, I actually can't remember which way, oh no, it's this one first. I read Women Don't Own You Pretty by Florence Given. I don't know what's happened to it, but I've like, I think I got water on it or something, because there's like weird marks on the front, but I really enjoyed this book. I read What a Time to Be Alone first, which if you have heard me speak about this before, then you'll know. But if you haven't and you haven't seen it, Women Don't, I always get this the wrong way around. Women Don't Owe You Pretty was accused of being a copy of What a Time to Be Alone, and like ripping off some of the like ideas and concepts and stuff that are in that book. And I do see where people are coming from that, and I think maybe it goes a little bit deeper than what you first see. But I do think they're 2 separate books in their own right, and they are quite different. I understand that there are like similar themes, but I do understand where people are coming from. But she does also mention and reference Chidera, who wrote What a Time to Be Alone, quite a few times like throughout the book. Yeah, I really like all the illustrations, if you haven't seen them. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people's issue with this book is more to do with Florence and her social media presence and things like that than it is to do with the actual book itself. And I quite like to like separate the book from the person and like appreciate the book as the book, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's wrong or not like being naive or whatever, but that's what I prefer to do. And I didn't have a problem with the book at all. I did find it a little bit pushy at the start in her like tone, but I think that is just her writing style, and you do get used to it as you go through. So if you do start reading this and think, oh no, this is too much, stick with it, because it does have some valuable like life lessons almost, I guess. It just has some like food for thought, I guess, in the way that you maybe do things or experiences that you may have had and things like that. So yeah, I would recommend this to anyone actually. So let me know if you've read it, what you thought. Let me know if you've read What a Time to Be Alone, and if you've read them both, and what you thought in terms of like similarities, differences, etc. And yeah, I'd love to discuss it with you. Next up was Dolly Olderton's Ghosts. Now this book I bought in Tesco, which I shouldn't have done. I have so many books, but it just jumped out at me and it was on offer, okay? But yeah, I read her other book. Oh, I did this in the last one, I can't remember what it's called. Everything I Know About Love. And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed her writing style, and it does come across in this as well, even though this is more of a story narrative style book, and the other one was more like autobiographical almost, like more non-fiction, and this is definitely fiction. So if you have read that and you enjoyed it, then I definitely recommend this one. Like I said, her style really came through into her fiction writing, which I really enjoyed. And I'm just remembering, this is like the beginning of the month. The main character is called Nina, and she's like in her 30s, she's got a successful career, she lives on her own, she's paid for her own flat, and then she decides that she wants to look for a relationship, so she gets herself on a dating app, and eventually ends up getting ghosted, hence the name, well, one of the meanings for the name. It is relatable, it's kind of just like kind of chick flick vibes. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I would read this again as well, like I will go back to this 100%, and I think that's the best like decide out of a book. I mean, some books I've really enjoyed and wouldn't touch again, but some books you just have to go back to them, and I feel like this is one of them. So the final book I read in August was The Colour Purple by Alice Walker. This has been on my TBR forever, and I got it on, I think I got this in World of Books or Book Depository. One of them, when I did like a big order of all the books that are on sale. I think this was like £2 or £3. I found it difficult to get into this book at the start, but by the end I was very much into it. At the beginning it's very sort of like hard hitting. I don't know if anyone knows what like the subject matter is of this book, but I did not really. Like, I've seen a couple of people talk about it, but not in that much detail. So I'll just read you the back, so I'm not giving any spoilers, but just in case you don't know or you haven't really heard much about it. It is set in the deep American South between the wars. It's the tale of Celie. I hope I'm saying that right. A young black girl born into poverty and segregation, raped repeatedly by the man she calls father. She has 2 children taken away from her, is separated from her beloved sister Nettie, and is trapped into an ugly marriage. But then she meets the glamorous Shug Avery, singer and magic maker, a woman who has taken charge of her own destiny. Gradually, Celie discovers the power and joy of her own spirit, freeing her from her past and reuniting her with those she loves. So it's basically like her history, and really goes into like the poverty and segregation side of things. This was also on a lot of the like reading lists when BLM sort of came about last year, so I think it's been on my TBR since around then, but I had heard of it before that. I think it's on a lot of like A-level specs, and that's quite a hard-hitting book for an A-level student. I think it is quite hard-hitting at the beginning, but then as you go through it you kind of like warm up to it. Obviously, like, some of the things that are in this book are absolutely horrific, but you do kind of like get used to that. I'm trying to say this without sounding like a dick, but you kind of like put yourself in that situation and those kind of times and what was going on at that time and what it was like in these conditions for these people. So yeah, I really got into it at the end. It was kind of heartwarming. Like, halfway through it kind of switches a little bit, and so Celie is writing, it's all set out in letters. So at the beginning she's writing to God because she thinks like her life is so bad that she can only tell God about it. It's obviously all the things that happened to her. So she's writing to God and like telling her story as it happens to her, kind of thing. And then halfway through she starts writing to her sister, who they are separated and they're like, they both don't know where each other are, kind of thing. They're like miles and miles apart and haven't heard from each other since they were kids. So she's then writing to Nettie and Nettie's writing back to her, and yeah, and they will get reunited at the end. Sorry, spoiler alert. But yeah, that is the general premise of this book, and I kind of do want to reread it now I've read it once, to like go back and really like get into it, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I gave this 4 stars, I want to say. But yeah, I will be keeping hold of this one, and I probably will reread at some point. So that is my August wrap up done with, and we're going to move on to the September TBR list. So the first one I have is Make It Happen, Manifest the Life of Your Dreams by Jordana Levin. I've never heard of this book before. I read the intro last night, I'm literally that far in, and yeah, it's basically just all about manifesting. I saw it on offer in the Works and it was actually like £3, so I was like, I have a good feeling I'm gonna get it. What's the worst that can happen? And I got stuck in straight away last night. So it's in 2 parts. Part 1 is the theory, so it's basically like, what is manifestation? She's put it into an equation, which is interesting. So if you don't know what manifestation is, by the way, it's basically like speaking into existence things that you want to happen in your life or to you. So for example, you can manifest like your dream job or your dream house or things like that. So it all ties into like vision boards and visualization, things like that. So yeah, the first half is like the theory, basically how to manifest, I'm guessing, and then part 2 is the practice. So like it's supposedly, I've only read the intro, but it's supposedly going to give me all the steps to manifest everything I want in my life, so watch this space. Next up, I have 2 books that I think these are the only 2 left from my like physical TBR that I had for like building up over the last year or however long. The first one is How to Disappear by Gillian McAllister. It looks like this. As you can see, I got it at Tesco, 2 for £8. I can't even remember what book I bought with it, but it was last summer, so I've had this book for over a year and haven't touched it yet. It's quite a chunky one for little old me, but we're going to give it a go. I have heard a few good things actually. Again, it was a random one that I picked up because it was on the offer, and I don't know if anyone else finds this, but there's always one book that you really, really want, and then you're like, oh well, I may as well have another one, so this is the one I picked. And I have since seen a few reviews of it on Instagram, so I think it was a good choice, but we'll find out. Book number 3 is Ruth Jones' Never Greener. Again, I think I picked this up in the World of Books haul I did at the beginning of the year, I want to say. Yeah, so if you don't know who Ruth Jones is, this is her debut novel as well, and she's one of the co-writers on Gavin and Stacey, so I can't wait to read this. And she's just put a new book out, I think, and then I think there's another one after this. I could be like completely wrong, but she might have like loads of books, but let me see if I can find a date on this one. Yeah, 2018, so it is fairly new. So I think she's got 2 more books, and like the most recent one has like just come out because I saw it in Tesco and nearly picked it up. But yeah, I'm excited for this one. Again, it's quite chunky, so if I can get through those 3, I'll be happy, because I do start my course over the next, well, towards the end of this month, so if I can get through those 3, I'll be very happy with myself. And then I do have one more thing that I wanted to show you guys. So while I was in the works, excuse the camera wobble, while I was in the works yesterday, I also picked up, I actually can't believe I've done this, but it's well worth it. Look at that. I don't know if this is all Giovanna's books, but it's a good chunk, right? I did read Some Kind of Wonderful last Christmas and I loved it, so I will be reading it again. But yeah, I got all of these for £15, which works out like £3 a book. So I'm very happy with that. So if I do get through those 3, I will be starting on one of these. I'm very excited. And look how aesthetic that is. All the pastels. I'm obsessed and I literally can't wait. That is my September TBR and my August wrap up all done. I feel like this has been a little bit of a longer video. I think I'm just talking more. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a little thumbs up. If you're not already, hit subscribe. Turn on the bell notifications if you'd like to get notified every time I upload. And I will see you next time. See you later.